All right, sweet. Let's get this bitch started up. I'm liking this. Where's that intro music? Here we go.
Fucking thing sucks. We'll do it live.
Cruising whiskey. Get in, sit down, buckle up. Cruising whiskey. Get in, sit down, buckle up. Cruising whiskey.
Welcome back to Cruising with Steak. Grimsteak here with my main man James Cruz.
Yo, what up?
Here we are. And tonight we're going to be discussing some of the origins of the Easter holiday. 'Tis the season. We welcome back the wonderful guest Tbone Shuffle. What's up, Tbone?
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure, you know? Just you gave us some amazing Christmas origin stuff back around that time. So coming back again, bringing the heat, bringing the fun. Pretty excited.
I've always
Christ
been
back.
into the origin of holidays. They're a little mysterious, all of them. In fact, there's a pagan story behind every one of them.
Oh man. Well, I'm excited to hear about Easter. So lay it on us, T-Bone.
Easter, you want to do Easter, or do you want to talk about St. Patty's Day at all?
I mean, we could do both. We got them both coming up.
Well, that's a weird one. You know, it's said to be after St. Patrick, in Ireland, but it's on the 17th day of the third month of the year, which corresponds to Osiris's death day. And Osiris in the Egyptian legends is also known as the Green Man. And we can see all those green traditions in St. Patrick's Day, as well as drinking, because he was the god of barley and beer otherwise.
Really? So he's all about green, and yeah, they just ripped all that shit off.
Well, each holiday, I really feel like the elite want to have us covertly celebrate their holiday. They gain power from that somehow, in fooling us into doing something we don't even know that we're doing.
So you think that the elite are all about these, they still celebrate the pagan holidays, but they've disguised it in under Christianity guise or something, or?
I think so, because in the end, there's some powers in control of definitely the calendar and what we celebrate and what we do, and they've chosen to highlight those old holidays and old systems. So they must have some adherence to them. And, the elite are descended through the elite throughout history. And if you look back in the elite that ran places like Rome and other places like that, they all attested to these ancient gods. Herodotus, who the word history comes from, wrote about how his gods were basically representations of the old Egyptian gods and Sumerian, Babylonian gods with other names.
Now, who's Herodotus?
He's the father of history, he's known as.
The father.
I have a tab for him somewhere. I was trying to do some in-depth research, but it's there's so many rabbit holes that you end up going down. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
And you'll kind of see as we go, just as we start talking, how it just weaves into so many different things. There's so many different traditions of the sacred feminine and Easter and the celebrations around the spring equinox and when they were, doing planting season. Having trouble finding it. But yes, Herodotus, I believe, was a Greek. And
yeah, I'm reading it reading some of them right now. Yeah.
It is where we get the word history, I believe.
And history, his story.
His story.
Yeah. Just rewriting it. What it is. Man. Welcome, Jerry.
Shalom.
Shalom.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up? Just having a chat with Tbone. Just talking about.
Anyway, yeah, talking about Easter, celebrating the sacred feminine, and
sacred feminine.
If you look back, it goes through many different religions. Sort of the oldest of which that is accepted by modern history is Sumer. And in Sumer, the sacred feminine representation of the Easter goddess was known as Inanna, called the Queen of Heaven. Tricked the god of wisdom, Enki, into giving her his special tools, including the tablets of destiny, which gave her great power. I know that 7 it's called the number of God, and for a lot of reasons. I've heard because the Babylonians only knew of 7 planets, and part of that is in their god system, which they shared, some of which was Sumer. They had 7 of their gods were the ones who would decree fate, and they were more powerful among the other gods, and Inanna was one of those, who didn't start out like that, but she used trickery or cunning to fool her way into becoming one of those 7 who would decree fate.
Now, did you ever see the show American Gods?
What was that?
Have you ever seen the show American Gods?
No.
Dude, there's a final, like one of the final episodes. There was a like the Easter god, and I was wondering if that's Inanna. Jerry, can you confirm this? Because I don't remember.
It was Ashtar or Astara. I forgot which one.
Yeah,
Ishtar.
Yeah,
Ishtar.
like a spring goddess or
It was Astara, I believe.
a star.
But that's also Ishtar. It's Isis, Columbia. It's all that same thing. Kali.
She's also known as the goddess of 1,000 names.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
It's all
There
the
you go.
same.
The many-faced man.
Yeah.
It's the spring. It's the creation. It's the new year. It's the new cycle beginning. It's the creation story. You know,
And
Inanna was also the goddess of
the
war,
resurrection, rather.
she's goddess of war. Oh man.
but not necessarily warfare, the act of warfare, but the passion of war, the passion that you would get into during war. And also the goddess of fertility and sex, but not necessarily sex for love, just for passion.
Yeah, so it sounds like she's just the goddess of just raw emotion. Just when it
Yes.
gets down to the that's pretty sweet.
So
Sounds
she
like
was also tied to prostitution, and her temples were the first fertility temples where they would have temple prostitutes, and they would use them to gain, revenue for the temple.
Well, good for them. Cruise Mistake is a pro sex worker podcast. James, you got to tone down the soundboard. It's coming in hot.
Yeah.
It's kind of a big clue as to like how they're copying these same traditions later on when they have temple prostitutes in Rome and in Palestine for different other gods. For Baal in Palestine under the Canaanite god system.
Canaanites. See, like these are all words that I've heard, but I don't know what they mean. Canaanite?
Kind of like another country.
The
Sort of.
Canaanites were a civilization in modern day Palestine, sort of right next to Jerusalem.
Oh, okay. All right, so those were the ones that Israel kill.
People
Right now.
tend to get confused on, I think, Sumer and Babylonian gods. And there was also the Assyrian civilization between those. The Sumer's the oldest, and they were based on a few cities, the largest of which was Uruk and Eridu. And then they would, fall into hard times, and Assyria rose up, and they were conquered by the Assyrians, which they established the city of Babel and ended up becoming the Babylonians, eventually being conquered by the city of Babel. And it's just, they sort of go from north to south. The Sumer community was in the northern more part of Mesopotamia. And then Assyria was more in the middle, and Babylon was more south. But they're all very similar. And as each community would conquer the previous one, they would bring a bunch of the people as slaves. And in order to have a more congenial community, they would take some of the gods and implore their religious traditions into their own and sort of blend them together and rename them. Inanna, I think it's Inanna. Yes, Inanna has a tradition that's almost exactly like the legend of Persephone, Demeter and Persephone. I don't know if you know that one from Greek mythology.
I know the names, but I couldn't tell you anything about them. I've heard the names, though.
Demeter had a daughter, Persephone, who was seduced by Hades and brought to the underworld.
Okay.
I can't remember the whole thing.
Was that the pomegranate story, or am I just throwing? Okay, it was sweet. I do remember things.
when they went to rescue her from the underworld from Hades, he made her eat a pomegranate seed, or tricked her into eating a pomegranate seed, and that was part of the underworld, and it bound her to the underworld for a third of the year, and that's why we have wintertime. She would have to go down to the underworld for a third of the year and be Hades' wife. So she was both the goddess of spring and fertility and the queen of death, the goddess of the underworld, who by legend controlled the fate of dead men.
Which is just like Kali.
Yes. So Inanna had a sister. I'm trying to look at my notes. Dang it. I thought I had her sister's name on here. I'm going to have to bring up a tab.
$5 says Nimza Flugzug in the Martian Archaeologist. He's going to throw it out here in a second. He's just dropping all his stuff. What about the Akkadians? Man, yeah, the Akkadians. She ate 6 pomegranate seeds, apparently. Wonder what the significance behind that is. There's so much shit, man. It's just when you look at these old religions and whatever, it's like a mirror. It's a mirror image of everything that they study now, or worship now. It's crazy. Everything's been ripped off and stolen.
Yeah. Basically, Inanna has a sister, and she gets taken to the underworld as well, and also gets fooled into having to go down there for a period of the year. It's almost an identical story. I mean, the details are changed, but you can pretty much tell that they tried to kind of recycle this religion. And it's just part of kind of what you think, where the elites move from one civilization to the next, and they need to spin out this religion to keep the people happy. And they have these certain formulas that they rely on, or they might take these same gods that they know represent something to the people and spin them out under a different name in a slightly altered story. But as far as Easter, we all grew up going and collecting eggs and maybe seeing the Easter bunny. And I went to school and asked my teacher, or I remember people asking him and saying, where did the Easter bunny come from? Or why do we have Easter eggs? And nobody had ever had an answer for that.
No, there isn't. I don't understand it.
Until the internet came around, you had to go in the dark depths of the library to find that kind of thing.
Yeah, man, it's like rabbits don't even lay eggs. I don't get it.
I was doing looking up some stuff on that aspect of things, and actually Easter traditions resemble an ancient pagan celebration. So here's a little story about how it works. Easter facts show that holiday closely resembles a pagan celebration from ancient times. Nimrod, the grandson of Noah, had become a tyrannical ruler. When he died, a religion formed that practiced demon worship and performed human sacrifices. When his widowed wife gave birth to a son, she convinced the public that the son was Nimrod reborn and that he was the promised savior. As the story was passed down over the years, she became known as the Anglo-Saxon goddess Ishtar. And then by some Easter, a fable was told that explained how Ishtar was hatched from an egg that fell from heaven. So there's your comparison rip off.
That's the basic overview.
And
Yeah.
Nimrod's been associated with Lucifer many times.
There's many people that think that Nimrod is actually Sargon of Akkad, which is the first king of Acadia.
When I hear that, I just think of the fucking YouTuber. It broke me.
Well, if you look into the Bible, it talks about Nimrod establishing some of the first cities and being a great conqueror, and it names the cities that he established, and one of them is Akkad. And Sargon is supposedly also the founder of Akkad. So many people think that they're one and the same person. There's many blogs and articles through even credible historians that talk about that. Because a lot of times when people get crowned, they will name themselves something else.
Right.
Sargon is also the name of like the very first computer chess program I ever saw.
And apparently he has the same backstory as Moses.
No, they named that chess app Sargon. It's back like in the 80s.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Little
So
technology
Nimrod
fun
named
fact.
his own mother. Nimrod's,
What?
Nimrod's the grandson of Noah. I have an article up here somewhere. Yes, Nimrod is the
They're all a
grandson
bunch
of
of
Noah.
Talamh.
Became known as King Sargon I. He built Babylon and Nineveh. Being warlike, he wore a helmet of a horn in the front, a trait inherited by the Druid Vikings and Celts, descendants of the Assyrian line. Nimrod means tyrant. Yeah, it's just sort of the same story that James was just reading.
Yeah.
But when Nimrod died, Semiramis, who was his mother, said that he was reincarnated into the sun and became the sun, and his name was now Baal. And
Oh, wow.
after a period of time, she claimed that Baal had impregnated her, the sun had impregnated her. And the son that she gave birth to, she named Tammuz. And Tammuz was, the first version of the virgin birth. The same story has been spun out in other religions, obviously, and changed. But Horis is a really close resemblance to it's Isis's birth from Osiris that she resurrected, who is, the god of the sun as well. But Tammuz was a great hunter who liked to hunt rabbits. That was the favorite thing that he liked to hunt. And a lot of people think that's part of why rabbits got involved in Easter. Also, rabbits, I believe they're the fastest reproducing animal as far as mammals go on the earth. They have a ridiculously fast gestation time.
Faster than mice?
30 days. They have 4 to 12 rabbits in 30 days. And I think that
30
they can...
days.
They can give birth again, like a baby rabbit can give birth in 30 days as well.
Wow.
And because of that, in 1 year, 2 rabbits can make 800 rabbits.
So basically, if shit ever hits the fan, it's best to breed rabbits. Because I mean, you have like an endless food supply there.
So the legend was that Tammuz was killed by a boar, and that he bled on an evergreen tree. And to this day, evergreens are sacred because of that, or that's one of the reasons that evergreens are sacred. But also,
I was just reading because of the Easter Bunny legend, and you're talking about the rabbit thing. It was just because it's a symbol of new life. So the way it went was the Easter Bunny began as a legend from Germany that spoke of a woman who would leave decorated eggs hidden throughout the village during times of famine. Once they found the egg, they would look up and they'd see a large rabbit running away. So it's probably just all these rabbits just banging everywhere, just rabbits running around all over the place. New life. And there's your Easter Bunny legend. That's crazy.
A lot of those German pagan
Yeah.
traditions that you hear of, like that one you're talking about, and there's also another one. I believe her name is Ostara,
Yes.
and the legend is that she saved a bird from being frozen in the winter, and then changed it into a rabbit that laid colored eggs. And this was written about by a guy that was called the Venerable Bede, and it's a monk that wrote a lot of history of the Middle Ages. He was around about 750 AD, and he's highly touted as a giant historic writer of the era. But a lot of people have looked into these legends of the bird being turned into a rabbit and laying eggs, and they can't find anybody else having ever written about that except for him.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think, where did he get that from?
Yeah, that's crazy.
But he did write about that in 750 AD. It's not as well known as many of the other traditions, though. So Tammuz, to get back to him, he was killed by a boar.
Yeah.
And, that's that they eat pig to celebrate his death day. And that's why we eat ham on Easter.
The ham. Yeah.
And that's where that comes from.
Easter ham.
So Ishtar proclaimed that they would have 40 days of fasting and mourning when Tammuz was killed. And it's sort of a copy of the Lent period for Passover.
Hey.
During this time, they would meditate with the sign of the T in front of their hearts as they worshipped. And then after the 40-day period was over, they ate sacred cakes with the marking of a T or cross on top.
Wow.
And that's where hot cross buns come from, which Jewish people cook for Passover to this day.
Hot cross buns. It's a song that everybody learns on the recorder in elementary school. You start playing it. Hot cross buns is the first one.
It's 3 blind mice.
It's weird.
The cross is most likely a T for Tammuz and not.
It's probably a spell.
Symbol or Jewish symbol. Also on Ash Wednesday, I don't know if you know anything about that.
I know that I see people walking with shit on their forehead every Ash Wednesday when I'm at work.
It reinforces the black on your third eye.
An ash cross, a T on your forehead,
Yeah, the T. Yes.
So if you look into the date, it's a really weird thing too. Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. It's a very strange date to settle down on, wouldn't you think?
And it's wrong. The Christians are celebrating it wrong this year, too.
I haven't heard that. I have heard that they talk about fixing it on a date, which makes all kinds of sense because it's pretty obvious that they're not actually celebrating, the resurrection of Christ when you move the date around all the time and you base cycles of the moon.
It doesn't matter what they're celebrating. They got enough people that believe that that's what they're celebrating.
Well, I think that's where some of them derive their powers by covertly.
This is what I'm saying. They also derive their powers from the alignments that happen on that day, or the powers, the energies of the event. Typically, the equinox. It's the equinox that they're centered around, and ours happens next week. So traditionally, there should be like next weekend, but the Catholic one's in April 21st, I think.
So if you look at the Jewish Passover, it's quite similar in the way that they do the date, but it's a little bit different. I think it's the first full moon after the 14th of the 7th month of the year. It's something confusing like that, but it ends up being almost the same date of Easter and not quite. If you look around though and say like, well, who celebrated on this timing? It's actually the Babylonians, and that's exactly where that date period comes from. That's when they celebrated their spring fertility festival. I have a tab on the name of it up here somewhere.
Man. All goes back to the Babylonians and the Sumerians. But what was before them? Where did they get their information from?
Yeah, who knows? Through pre-Diluvian civilizations that we know nothing about that are probably 400 feet under the ocean.
Yeah, yep. Yeah.
If there's anything left. I totally failed on all my tabs.
It's all right, man.
Yeah.
You're
Those
out of
could all
power.
be stories, though. Those Atlantean things could be past lives, for all we know. Doesn't necessarily mean.
I mean,
they were
the only written evidence of Atlantis we have is Pluto's writings, right? There's nothing else.
Plato.
Plato, thank you. We're just talking about going full retard in the chats. That's what Grimstake does.
And you just did. You just married Disney with the ancient Greeks.
I did. That's because their conditioning is strong on me, Jer. It's very strong.
Maybe it's the same. You know, Pythagoras was, of course, the first dark Freemason. You know.
Oh man, Black Masons. We talking?
I don't know.
I like it.
He was definitely a sorcerer. They were philosophers, which was like a secret code for alchemists, which meant they were magicians. To me, that's what that means to me.
I don't know, man. It's a simple fact that every culture has a flood myth. I mean, there was a flood. Something was going on. And whether or
They
not
all stole the same story.
they did. Well, and Jesus lived in Japan too. So let's not forget about that. You know, it was really his son that or his brother or something
James
that died on James Christ died on the cross.
James
Well,
of Nazareth.
The legend is that he visited the UK with his uncle. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, but then that he learned from the Druids until the age of 30. And that's why there's nothing in the Bible about what Jesus did from the ages of 18 to 30. I believe.
Yeah, that's kind of like my life. Like Grimstake didn't exist from 18 to 30.
It was Joseph of Arimathea. I believe I talked about it last time.
Yeah, probably.
Wait, that was his uncle?
Yes, that was supposedly Jesus' uncle.
So his dad and his uncle's name was Joseph?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
crazy.
kind of bizarre.
I guess they distinguish it by saying of Arimathea.
Well, you got to think there probably weren't too many names back then. You know, you only got a few to choose from.
They had debts. They had names.
Very true. Debts.
It's just kind of amazing. They fool us into all these holidays.
Well, they do, yeah. But it is. It's like we still celebrate these holidays under a Christian guise, but they obviously have different origins. So are they still using those different origins? Like, are they tapping? Do the elites want to keep the pagan beliefs around? But
Well, it's obvious they do because they keep bringing them back. I was going to talk about also, after the Protestant Reformation, when the Bible was actually given to the people, because previous to that, it was all in Latin and nobody could read it. There was a big pushback against a lot of these traditions. And in the 1600s, the Puritans took over the Parliament in the UK and made celebrating Easter and Christmas illegal.
that's that's crazy.
This was in the UK. This was shortly before they went to the New World in the 1640s, I believe. And it was illegal to celebrate Christmas in the UK until the 1660s, I believe. So for over 20 years until the Catholics or whoever fought back, and then they brought back the old traditions. But when the Puritans first came to America, they also instated laws against Christmas, and it was very strict. I didn't know anything about that until I started researching for this. But there's even art depicting it where there was people that were trying to celebrate and play an ancient game that was kind of like baseball. And they were arrested by the Puritan leader of the town at the time. And there's a famous artwork that depicts it.
For playing baseball?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Pretty
the
harsh.
Puritans, man. Yeah. burning people at stakes. Like that's it's a bunch of crazy.
They just thought that the way to God was really a strict religion, and they thought that you were polluting it if you went too far outside of it. I can see some of what they thought and the wisdom of it. You can see where we're heading today.
Yeah.
Oh, another game they used to play was used to be a tradition that the churches would have and resemble the game of hot potato. I think this is where the hard-boiled egg thing comes into play. So they would toss a hard-boiled egg from one kid to another for like through the whole town, and then whoever had the egg at noon like got to keep the egg. Like, yay. Like, yeah.
Everybody's germs all over it.
Exactly.
Yeah, bust that thing open, sprinkle with some salt. You got lunch.
Dude, that was so good. Oh,
Man.
my God. That was the best. Yeah, that came, the decorating of the egg came from a Ukrainian tradition, I think.
The Ukraine?
Yes. It's called the Plovitska or something like that.
So I forgot to mention, Inanna's father was Sin, who's the Sumerian god of the moon. And they had a man god of the moon.
Really?
Some religions had a woman god of the moon and some had a man. It's kind of a weird thing. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, in Western tradition, we sort of have a man on the moon.
That is
tradition.
true.
And it comes from the story in the Bible where in Numbers, a guy was stoned to death for gathering sticks on the Sabbath. And in occult traditions, he's said to be the man on the moon. And that's why Led Zeppelin put that guy on their album cover.
For gathering sticks on the Sabbath. Dude just needed some sticks. And he gets a bunch of rocks thrown at him. Life was hard back then.
Dude.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people think, oh, yeah, it's just a guy with a bundle of sticks. But, Led Zeppelin was way too into the occult to do that on one of their album covers and not have it, have some meaning.
I'll look up that album cover right now.
It's Led Zeppelin 4. The same one was Stairway to Heaven, which is what the Tower of Babel would be.
Only 12 of the 50 states recognize Good Friday as a holiday. I didn't even know. I didn't even think it was considered a holiday. I don't know. Must not be in my state.
Well, nah, dude, it was, it was never really a holiday around here. Like, you didn't get the day off. But I do remember a lot of Christian, Catholic kids wouldn't come to school on that day.
Yeah. Huh.
It all depends on where you're at in the Bible Belt.
That's true, too.
I'm just reading this Tammuz legend. Every year on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox, a celebration was made. It was made Ishtar's Sunday and was celebrated with rabbits and eggs. Ishtar also proclaimed that because Tammuz was killed by a pig, that a pig must be eaten on that Sunday. The word Easter is not in the Bible. Neither is any of these traditions.
Oh, man. For those who aren't so religious, Easter marks a long weekend filled with fun.
Yeah, I know.
Just send your cash.
I don't go to church. I'm not.
I stopped. I was raised Catholic. I went. So me and my brother went. We did our first communion, and God, I had to been probably, maybe like probably around my son's age now, maybe 12 or something. I remember going to PSR class, like Sundays, like Sunday school type thing. I remember doing that.
Oh, my dad used to bring me to church as a kid. I grew up in Christian school.
Okay, yeah.
So I know a lot about it. I grew up with Bible as a class in school.
Nah, man, yeah. Once I did the communion, my parents were like, it was up to us if we wanted to keep going or not, and we were like, yeah, we're good.
My parents made me get confirmed. I had to go through 8 years of it.
I've never even been baptized.
I've been baptized.
I think I was about 11 or 12, and I was like, I'm not going to church anymore. That sucks.
That was about right when, that's what I said. That's like right when I was like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I am good.
I went to waste 1 hour.
I remember saying that, and my dad was like, you're going anyway.
Man.
He was kind of intimidating.
That's when you start making noise and shit in church, and pop your fingers off or snap and look around quite a lot.
Or unless you're like a Pentecostal and start speaking in tongues and it's accepted. It's crazy. Never understood that.
Snakes.
Yeah, snake handling and speaking in tongues. Where did that come from? We need to do a show on Pentecostals.
Came from Atlantis.
Probably.
No, I don't know.
So the Babylonian Spring Festival was called Akitu, one of the oldest in the Middle Ages, dating back to the 3rd millennium BC. 12-day ceremonial event, which began at the first new moon after the spring equinox. That unique tradition took place in order to humble the king and remind him of his role to serve the will of the god Marduk and in order to provide properly for the community. The head priest would strip the king of his regalia and slap him hard on the face. The Babylonians believed that if the king teared up, Marduk approved of him and he could be king for another year.
So all he had to do was cry and he got to be king again?
Yeah.
Man.
It just seems so strange.
Yeah, I'd rig that. Be like, put some pepper in your palm before you smack me or something. Just get it in my eyes.
There's actually art depicting it. Doesn't show the slap, but the guy standing in front of the king has his hand up like he's gonna slap him.
We should we should do that with Trump. Just you get 4 more years if you tear up after we smack you.
Cry.
It's how all leaders should be kept. Oh, that's great. And ancient traditions.
They all had some very serious religious cults around them that had temples dedicated to just that goddess, and priests and devotees, and all kinds of different stories that revolved around them. It was pretty involved. It was we kind of think of a god as like just one of many, but as I talked about earlier, the Sumerians only had 7 major gods, and she was one of them.
Well, did the Sumerians? I remember seeing this tablet where they know about Uranus and or Uranus. I don't want to be a child, and outer planets that they shouldn't have known about somehow. There's that one tablet that has all those planets.
They knew about 7 planets, but there is ways to tell that the planets aren't stars just because of the way they move through the heavens. And I think that's how they kind of identified them. Well, their movement pattern is different. They'll actually go back and forth in the sky sometimes as they
retrograde
around. Where the other stars, make a continuous motion. So somebody that pays really close attention can pick them out.
Yeah, that's like those, Jerry, you did a video like that before where you focus on the one star and then you get the whole spiral where it's like everything looks like it's just staying the same. It does that.
Yeah, every star has a different pattern, but you have to do an overfocus on it. So you're focused on the light behind it, and it gives it this really strange, inverted, convex look, and the lights look like they rotate around.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, they are, and each one has a different pattern, which is interesting. And those lights are there, right? But I'm just out of focus. So it's not out of focus looking at that lights, but those colors are there. right? It's not going through a prism. It's just out of focus. So those frequencies are hitting the Earth. That's what's interesting about it. So each one has a different frequency pattern.
Maybe there's energy coming off of that. More
If
and more.
there's light hitting you, there is.
Astrology's not so much bullshit the more I think about it.
So the Chinese also have a tradition of a woman on the moon. I'll have to pull that one up really quick. But one of the funny things is that she is, her companions on the moon are rabbits that make medicinal formulas and medicines on the moon for her.
Well, isn't there like
Chang?
Isn't there some kind of there's a rabbit in the moon, isn't there? Like if God, didn't I see that somewhere?
Yeah, I posted a picture of that the other day.
That's right. I was like, I know.
The Chinese identified a pattern of it's a rabbit at a pedestal, like he's mixing something together.
The rabbit alchemist. Dead air. We got dead air.
Dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air.
Her name is Chang. I don't know if that's exactly how you pronounce it, but it's Change.
Sounds like
Change.
change.
You can believe in.
Yeah. I don't think they pronounce the E. Maybe they do.
Changé? It doesn't matter if I say.
During the,
just gonna get
harvest
racist.
Festivals, the autumn harvest festivals. People give mooncakes in her honor.
Like the moon pies?
In hopes of seeing her.
Man.
It's the ether.
There we go. While Tbone's pulling up
that whole
tabs.
vampire stuff. I know it's a thing. Yeah, but it's the ether.
Just filling in the dead air.
We got it. You were out of power for 8 hours today, Tbone.
Yeah, that was rough.
I almost thought the show wasn't going to happen. I was sweating it for a minute.
I was a little bit too. And it came back on at close to 3, and I had to hurry up. I missed the fights too. I usually watch.
No.
Yeah, and I spoiled it too. But that's all right.
Half of the United States banned the dyeing of chicks on Easter.
Chicks?
However,
Like baby
Florida
chicks?
recently overturned this law to prevent the dyeing of all animals. Yeah. Not only Florida overturned the dyeing of animals, but the state also held the largest Easter egg hunt where 9,753 children searched for over 500,000 eggs.
So people were dying animals? Like baby chicks?
Yeah, I guess.
I've heard of people dying their dog.
That's amazing. Well, now, yeah. Well, they made it. I guess. Well, yeah. Florida, you're allowed to. They overturned the law and now prevents the dying of all animals. Okay, yeah. So can't do that in Florida then. That's crazy. Oh man, I was just reading a creepy story about a guy up somebody in a bunny costume. Let's see, the man in the bunny costume. When I was younger, I used to live in the woods, or I used to live by the woods and could see a cemetery from my back porch. That's always gonna end well. One Easter, I remember waking up and seeing the Easter bunny, one of those terrifying costumes. And what really gets me is I remember smelling the wet hair. When I woke up, I didn't tell anyone, but there was a extra Easter egg in my house that my parents didn't hide. Years later, when I was in high school, I asked my parents if they'd ever dressed up like the Easter bunny and came in our room. They said they would never. They said they would never go back through go through so much trouble. So my younger sister, then my younger sister, who I shared a bunk bed with, and when this happened, she remembers the Easter Bunny came into our room also and made a remark about the smell, that same smell. I was terrified that we both remembered seeing a person dressed up as a bunny in our room. To make it even stranger, I told the friends I sat with at lunch what happened. One of the girls was my neighbor across the street. She told me one Easter, the time she looked out the window down her driveway, they saw during the night, saw the Easter Bunny standing in her driveway. I had chills to this day. I'm terrified of people in rabbit costumes. So fucking crazy people in rabbit costumes.
Oh yeah.
I remember kids always being scared of the Easter Bunny.
Oh, dude, just Google pictures of that. I mean, that's just terrified.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, terrifying pictures of that.
Easter.
It's like almost as bad as Santa Claus. Some of the kids just freaking out.
Krampus.
Yeah.
Krampus.
That Demeter and Persephone story we talked about earlier is a lot copied from Ishtar, Isis, all that other stuff. And people might think it's like a small part of the Greek religion, but it was also super secret and nobody talked about it. A lot of people say it was the most important cult in all of Greek religion. And Plato and Socrates were both initiates.
Really?
But
So
what they actually did, hardly anything's known about it because they kept such good secrets.
So this wasn't stuff that like the general masses were involved with.
No, you had to be initiated into their cult, and they had like 3 different levels of initiation.
So that almost makes you wonder if like the elites are still doing these kind of rituals, but then just give us, the bullshit Christian guise of it just to suck our energy from it, so they could just
they
use
need
that.
us all out collecting eggs on the same day that they're doing their rituals.
Yeah. Man, scumbags.
For the power of controlling the universe.
Or, at least what they think they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Man.
You can't say they're not doing it.
That is true. That is true. You can't say either way.
Are you guys ready for 5G?
Oh, dude, I was born ready for 5G. Just fry my fucking brain now. Let's do it.
I can't wait till all the bees are dead from it.
Man.
Did you hear that? What was it? Maybe on No Agenda. They were talking about 5G. I think it was in Australia. I think there was a parking lot that everyone's cars were they're having a problem. People were getting locked out of their cars.
Where they
couldn't get in. They couldn't start the fobs, the key fobs. And what they found out is that the drugstore was using 5G, and the signal was almost like dead on to whatever the key fob was. So like people think they had to leave their cars there. They couldn't. Yeah, I thought that was pretty wild. So they had to fix that.
The drawbacks of technology.
Yeah.
Everybody always thinks it's the best new thing, but they don't care about the large drawbacks.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I don't want a car without a key. I had I don't know how new any of your cars are, but I know most of the new ones you don't even have to put the key.
No, dude, it's all push button now. It's insanity.
You have to have the key on you, but
just in your pocket.
Right.
This just happened to me. My car's 3 years old now, I think. So it's 3 years old. It's a new car. It's one of those push button start. I hate it. Push button stopped working, or my key died. I don't know what happened. And I spent an hour in my car looking for the keyhole to put the valet key in. There's no keyhole to turn the ignition in my car. You have to hold the key up to the button.
Jeez.
Pardon?
Does that seem like a good idea to anybody?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
Just in the name of convenience?
No. It's retarded.
I just
having an iPad, you know.
I just sent Martian an invite. I sent Martian an invite to see if he wanted to come in because he's seeming to have a lot of comments on this topic right now. So I figured he'd be great. So we'll see if he bites. I want
Make him put his headphones on.
Oh man, but yeah, dude, this
also drive-by-wire. Like, I don't really want a computer sensing where my pedals are and then controlling the engine.
No, man, that's how you get Michael Hastings.
Yeah, exactly.
Controls the engine or controls your brain? Which would you rather?
Like, my car is the last version of it with the throttle cable. The one in 2008, right after it, is drive-by-wire.
So I don't know. I would like a non-Mad Max future where you can safely get driven somewhere, like in Minority Report kind of thing, without the pre-crime thing shit. You know, I'm just saying, you get in the car and say, "Take me." I don't know.
I was just watching iRobot, and the beginning. It was obviously a massive Audi commercial. You know, like through that whole entire movie, but it seemed like Elon, like the Elon Musk like highway thing or whatever, and all of a sudden the car goes, you know, like you can take it out of this automatic mode, and then you're driving 200 miles an hour, you know, on a highway, and the chick's like freaking out. but then they pull off, and then the car like just stops, and then like, you know, sideways, like pulls into the wall, then flips up onto a car rack. You know, it's just. Speaking of the car racks, you ever hear that new thing that for used cars? I think it's called like Carvana. Or
it's an online car dealership.
But then they have the cars in a giant like thing off the side of the highway. It's like, it looks like
a car hotel.
It's a tower. Yeah, it's just a tower, and you go and you like, I'm here to pick up my car, and then it drops your car down.
I have seen that.
Yeah, I just saw one. I
don't think that's Carvana, but it's same kind of idea.
One of them. One of those. Yeah, Carvana. Oh, Carvana is the one that brings it to your house.
Yeah, and you get like a 30-day, no questions.
My brother bought a pretty much brand new Ford Expedition.
Oh yeah,
I can't say that I'm not happy to see the kind of sleazy salesman approach in like the auto mall to the whole car sales situation go away.
So weird, yeah.
But at the same time, it's like it's destroying a whole industry. We don't even have a real car dealer in this town anymore. It's just like a few people that import a few cars in really small lots. Like the big dealerships are all closed.
There's like 25 in mine.
Dude, we have so many here.
Yeah, but are they doing well? Don't they kind of close all the time?
No.
Really?
You have to go further out. Those ones will close.
The ones that close are the little mom and pop buyer payers. They close a lot.
But some of these dealers have been around, long time. Like,
these ones in this town had too.
Bloodline dealerships.
Bloodline, yeah.
Families are families.
We got the Martian Archaeologist. He's on board now.
I was just going to say that, man. Let's welcome Martian Archaeologist, and I want to introduce you to Tbone Martian. There you guys go.
Good evening.
Jerry will be happy to know that I have my headphones.
You just said, yeah.
Thank you.
That's great.
It's not just for me.
So you were spouting some stuff
Tbone.
about the Akkadians or Akkad or something, Martian?
Yeah.
I shouldn't say spouting.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, what do you got?
Yeah, I think that it's crucial to understand that, you know, in the history of Mesopotamia, right, Sumer kind of starts everything as far as written history goes. But pretty soon after they start... Oh, sorry. I'm feeding back. I'm feeding back on myself.
Oh, wait, hold on. That's my... Here, I'm going to switch this. Yep. Okay, you should be good. That's probably my fault because my voice meter banana and I forgot to switch my input. But now you're good now.
All right, cool. So, so Sumer kind of kicks the whole thing off as far as we know. But pretty shortly after that, they get taken over by a group of people called the Akkadians. And their language is different than the Sumerians. The Sumerian language is, unconnected to other languages. But the Akkadian is part of the Semitic language group. And the Akkadian is basically empires, right? It gets started by Sargon, and Sargon's got a similar story to Moses, which is kind of funny, right? It's the whole reed basket sort of thing. And that motif kind of appears a lot. And we also see Moses get connected to Akhenaten in a lot of ways, which I think is also interesting.
Akhenaten, is that Egyptian?
Yeah, Akhenaten.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Moses, in some ways, gets connected to Akhenaten because there's certain parallels.
They're brothers. They're half brothers, allegedly.
Yeah. So the Akkadians are kind of the intermediary step that's really, really important because they're the original people that are building empires. So Sargon is going and conquering other kingdoms and Sumer and the city-states of Sumer, because it's not one big thing, right? Sumer is a collection of city-states. So he goes around and conquers everything. So that's the important intermediary step. And that's why you have multiple names for the same god, right? Ea and Enki are two names of the same god, but one is in Sumerian and one is in Akkadian. And so I think that people should also understand, there's the Akkadian period that kind of generates all of the empire building, in my opinion. So they're the original empire builders. And I think that we can look to ultimately the Akkadians as kind of one side that's chasing another side around. And that kind of becomes the course of Western civilization.
Wasn't it Sargon's daughter who was responsible for converting the Sumerian religion to the Akkadians?
I'm not sure.
No, I was reading about that earlier.
Yeah. And then a lot of this stuff all ends up in Babylon, right? Because Babylon is kind of the apex, as far as we know, of a lot of this culture. And they're really deep, man. They're conserving some very, very old stuff. And they say that themselves.
Have you heard the legends of Sargon and Nimrod being the same person?
No. I mean, I've heard a lot of stuff on Nimrod and Sargon and everything, but ultimately, I don't know how much it really matters to me in the grand scope of things. There's a million rabbit holes to run down, and I'm super stoked that people are down to do it, because to me, it's like, back in prehistory, there was some crazy stuff going on in Mesopotamia. And it has to do with the Sumerians, who we really don't know exactly who they are. And then there was the Akkadians who took them over, and then there was kind of the Babylonian, then the Sumerian Renaissance, and then Assyrians are in there a couple of times. And it's a big chain, but they're all conserving this same kind of idea.
Yeah, they all seem to have the same story.
Yeah, but I think that there's a crucial missing step in there, or not necessarily a missing step, but the introduction of the Akkadian overlay that kind of takes the Sumerian culture and makes it amenable to the other places in that part of the world. And it seems like the Akkadian vehicle is what spreads Sumerian culture in like a practical sense because of the empire.
So they were like almost the first Rome or whatever, like the first, just expanding culture.
Yeah, and I think that we see parallels of that in a lot of places, right? So Alexander the Great Hellenizes a lot of the world, and that's what kicks off a bunch of renaissances. As far as, Hellenism is really kind of the great renaissance of the ancient world, right? That had roots going back into like Buddhism too. So if you go onto the far ends of Alexander the Great's conquest, there's Greco-Buddhists over there that are having Greek-style statues of the Buddha. Some of the first depictions of the Buddha, like in human form, are Greco-Buddhist stuff from the end of Alexander the Great's empire, which I think is super interesting.
Yeah, the Greeks really idolized the Egyptians, it seems like to me. When I see, they could look across and see those great pyramids, and they had to respect the knowledge that those people had and displayed. The Greek nobles would send their children to the Egyptian mystery schools. Plato and many of those other people went to the Egyptian mystery schools to learn all this different, knowledge that they had passed down.
So where does Göbekli Tepe tie into all this? Is that like pre-Diluvian?
I think shortly after.
Yeah, because I mean that's always been
about 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was right after the floods.
Yeah,
that
I don't
seems
think
to be
anybody really knows. And unfortunately, all the fighting and stuff has really kind of put a damper on research.
Oh yeah, you can't even. I mean, well, it's in Turkey, so right, it's in Turkey, right? Göbekli Tepe, pretty sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, man, but that's crazy because I feel like that place was probably the gathering place to pass all this information, or like a place similar to that. Who knows how many more there could even be out there?
Yep, that's the key. One of them, right?
Just buried in the desert. Nobody knows it's there. Like there could be so much shit out there. Let's welcome Watcher to the show too. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Watcher.
Just coming on in, hanging out.
Hey, good evening, Watcher.
He's muted right now, just kind of looking confused. I don't even know if he can hear us.
I enjoy how many times they try to spin out the same goddess under different names.
Yeah.
Inanna was kind of known as like a woman's freedom, woman's rights kind of advocate as well, like do what you feel under passion. And the Romans had this goddess, Libertas, that they adopted in the 5th century BC, was referred to as the goddess of personal freedom and liberty. In fact, Libertas means freedom. So liberty, comes from freedom.
Libertas. What have I heard that in recently? That sounds like something that I've heard.
You're thinking of Project Veritas.
Well, it's the goddess freedom is on top of Congress.
James O'Keefe.
And it's the same person. It's Ishtar. It's Semiramis. It's Inanna.
It makes sense that they would keep using the same goddess, right?
Yeah. Well, this Libertas, it's the Statue of Liberty.
Well, that's also Columbia.
Yeah.
Which is Inanna. It's the same one.
The Canaanites had a fertility goddess with a very similar name too.
It's what NASA worships.
Really? NASA.
Ashara is the name of the Canaanites goddess. It was Baal and Ashara.
And you need to make a distinction between Baal and Baal.
Oh yeah, I guess it is Baal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a Baal and a Baal? A Baal?
There's Baal, Baal.
The plot thickens.
And there's another one that's more than that. It's like
Baal was actually their fertility god. They had a male fertility god, which is a little bit strange.
There's a demon with Baalic or Baalum or Bilium or something like that.
Want to give a shout out to Amanda in the chats before she goes to bed? She might have already, though.
Think of us.
I had to do that real quick.
Like 4 a.m. in the UK.
It is.
But she's Scottish.
Yes, the Scots can stay awake all night.
Well, the Philistines had a god Beelzebub.
Who's now a demon.
What about Belial?
Belial, that's who Belial is. I was thinking of the other thing of Baal.
Yeah. So many similar.
Or Marduk.
Yeah.
Another name for Baal.
Just gonna say I found a guy right here. This in the 19th century, the German folklorist Jacob Grimm researched the origins of the German name for Easter, which is Ostern. Ostera, yeah, which the old High German was Ostera. Both words related to the German word for east and Ost. Grimm, while admitting that he could not find a solid link between Easter and the pagan celebrations, that made the assumption that Ostera was probably the name of a German goddess like Astra or Estera. How do you say it? Estra?
Astera?
Yeah.
Astera? I don't know.
The ones that we were saying.
I can't see through your eyes.
Yeah.
I can't see through your eyes, James. I don't know what you're reading.
Astar is the name of that crazy AI city that they built in Pakistan or Turkey. Just throwing that out there.
Ostara.
Ostara was and then like Estera, the goddess Ostara was based entirely on supposition and conjecture before Grimm's. He did a book, the Duchess Mythology. There was no mention of the goddess in writings. Easter mostly came from the word for east because it has to do with springtime, I think.
Huh. Easter.
Yeah.
That's the goddess that the Venerable Bede, the monk, wrote about, but other people, no one's been able to find any other references to her. So some people doubt it.
The Astra?
Yeah, I have an article right here. Jacob Grimm, the brilliant linguist and folklorist, took over Bede's research and wrote a book in 1835 about it.
Yeah,
he proposed that Astara must have been a local version of a more widespread Germanic goddess who he named Ostara. It's impossible to tell if Ostara as a goddess ever existed outside of Grimm's proposal. So just like the Venerable Bede, there's no other mention of her outside of, what he says. Which I found strange. I mean, because they're both really academics and,
they couldn't find anything.
Credible characters.
Apparently, Aleister Crowley made an absinthe for her in her name. Little fun fact.
Ostara?
Just dropped in the chats, yeah. Absinthe. Wormwood root. I never had absinthe. You guys drink absinthe?
Never tried it.
I never have either.
I wasn't that interested. You're supposed to pour it over a sugar cube or something, right? That's how it works?
Yeah. There's some kind of tradition.
Yeah, apparently it's just revolting.
Yeah, that's what I heard black licorice should taste like, is what I've heard.
Yeah, it's not.
Watcher, are you working now?
Hey, yeah, I'm working. Can you hear me?
What's up, man? Yeah, you're good.
Hey, good to see you guys.
Do you live in a trailer like Failed and work for weeks on end?
No.
Let's give a big, loving, good vibes prayer to Failed, because I don't know.
Yeah,
he's kind of off the radar. Some shit happened to him or one of his friends, and we're just Failed. You're in our thoughts. If you even listen, love you, buddy.
Absolutely. I've worked up in camps quite a bit, and it's you like make a pretty close bond with some of those guys because you see them every day, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what Danny Warbucks was saying that though. It's like the suicide rate's incredibly high up there. Like it's just crazy.
Where is this?
It's up in the oil fields in Alberta, up at the camps. Yeah,
that's a rough business.
Yeah, man. He lost one of his friends though, and he's in our hearts. Love you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, shout out to Failed.
Yeah, man. It's terrible. But yeah, let's bring the vibes back up.
All right, let's talk about some crazy shit.
It's what we do. Cruising with steak.
Crazy shit.
Easter. Fucking Easter. So is it pretty much what it's getting down to is, or this is what I'm gathering from this, the elites or whoever is in charge or whatever, they're still worshiping these old gods. They've gotten us on the path of worshiping a different system. They don't let us into this occult knowledge. They're harvesting our energy off of it. What's going on here, guys? Like,
well, you explained it perfectly.
That's what's going on.
You explained it perfectly. I mean, look, the entire system that they put together is purpose built to harvest the energy of the people that are inside of it. Not theirs, really, but theirs is siphoned off to other powers. I mean, the whole thing is kind of a Ponzi scheme. But the resources that are extracted from the people that are inside of it. You could name a bunch of different ones, but it's various manifestations of your life force, whether it's, actual blood rituals or your attention, intention, directed intention, as a form of energy, whether it's your attention and your time, or your money, especially interest, because interest is kind of like an analog for your life force, because it's the money that the interest on the principal is kind of like a mortgage on your future timeline in some way, because it's money that didn't exist before. So the energy has to come from somewhere, and that can only come from you, from who you are. And it's really kind of a twisted concept, but I think that's another way that they can extract your kind of life force from you, and it gets passed on up the chain to them, and they pass it up on the chain to whoever's running it. It's kind of like a Ponzi scheme mafia model that works in both the physical and on through the other worlds.
I know her.
Do you ever look at the root word mortgage? It's mort for death. And
death contract.
Yeah.
Yes, a death contract. Oh man.
Yeah, I heard that one years ago. Yeah, that always stuck with me. I'm like, oh my.
There's a lot of secrets in linguistics. That's another way they like to hide things in plain view.
Let's get
especially since
Jordan Maxwell, yeah.
Yeah, since they give us a phonetic language to work with, right, and they give everybody the same phonetic written language, so that the effect of that is kind of like, so our words that we read on the page, they're letters that stand for sounds, and so we have to convert in our minds the sound into meaning. So it's kind of like an intermediary step, and when you do that, you can kind of adjust the meaning and the relations between things. It kind of confuses the mind by introducing an intermediary step, and that's kind of like a virtual world in which all of the things are recreated, and it's kind of in some way an analog to the idea of simulacra and a simulation, but it takes place in people's minds. And like that's the real trick of the Western linguistics, is it's basically a mental trap that
they're like spells.
Yeah.
I think some specificity has been removed. Some specificity nuances have been removed from English that existed in other Roman languages, if you will.
There's
like French and German and Italian. What?
Yeah. With sorry to interrupt you there. With drugs, like big pharmaceutical companies will send a list of drugs to linguists, and then those linguists and normal people too, just to get an idea of what the feeling people get from certain words. And millions of dollars go into this. So they send out all these words. My friend actually got a list, and he was getting paid really well, like $40 an hour, just to say what he feels about whatever words.
Yeah, man, that's how you get drugs like Wellbutrin and just like and crazy stuff like that. It just makes you feel good, like
Viagra.
So that's how we get memes in the news as well, and how they change the language and limit, how they want to describe something to give you a certain feeling about it.
Right. So does that mean the name actually changes the effects as well? So what you believe about it will actually change it.
Of course, there's a huge placebo effect here.
Mm-hmm.
Huge. Which
like when someone takes a water pill, like the name for the water pill is not even close. Like,
right. It's a placebo-based reality, pretty much. If you believe hard enough, 50% of the time it'll come true.
Yeah, and language is the key way to do that, because when you change the language that somebody's using, you basically change the limits of their reality and what they can conceive. Because if you take away words with certain meaning, after a while, people won't have that meaning anymore if you really harp on them about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're in the state we're in right now, because all this great states of mind that have been cultivated throughout history have been taken away.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and that's why you can call everybody a Nazi now, and it still doesn't have the same impact as what it originally did.
Yeah, that's
because Nazis are running our government.
Yeah, they're literally running the government. The funny thing is, the rest of the world knows this.
Yeah, I know. And the ones who are still here and are, pretty much following the path are laughing.
Yeah.
Crazy. And that's like what you were saying earlier, Tbone. When spelling, just the word spelling, you're casting a spell. You're spelling it out. Like that's.
There's a reason why those two words are the same.
Yeah,
absolutely. And
most of the time,
letter is in of itself a sigil, and when you put multiple sigils together, you have a hypersigil, which is a word. And a word can create an entire image in your brain, and that's magic.
The origin of English is really kind of mysterious, too. It's a conglomerate language. It's just based off of many other languages, and words are stolen from here or there.
Kind of like Catholicism.
Designed.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, everything in Western culture, it seems, is just a conglomeration of bullshit that they grabbed from everything.
Except they left out the pedo stuff.
Well, like the Martian was talking about earlier, how the Akkadians kind of started Western culture. I mean, that kind of lends to that they were the first ones to kind of adopt the Sumerian religion, and they just incorporated into their own, just so they could, round up all those people into their community and control them the same way and keep them happy.
Yeah, and they used the Sumerian religion, just like you said. Like they just adopted. I mean, they could have had the same thing going on. I don't remember, but the fact is that the Sumerian culture gets taken on the road in a major way in a lot of ways because the Akkadians were able to forge an actual empire and take over a lot of places. Like that is an event in history that happened, or a series of events.
So what if the Akkadians are just like, they're the same people, but they're the same people that have been empire building this entire time? Like they were the Romans, they were America, they're just everything. It's the same bloodline.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I'm saying is that there's not that the Akkadians per se, but whatever the essence of what they represent is kind of a historical trend that moves through. And it's paralleling another one that I have this kind of suspicion comes out of Egypt. And it's kind of like the interplay between these two things that is kind of the thing that propels Western culture forward. And it moves, maybe it's because I'm a white guy and I just have like Hegelianism in my roots. I just can't get rid of it. So it's like the progress of the world spirit projected backwards with better information than Hegel had at his time. I'm not sure.
So the Sargon's daughter is named Enheduanna. Enheduanna is the world's first author known by name and was the daughter of Sargon of Akkad.
Interesting.
Whether Enheduanna was in fact a blood relative of Sargon or the title is figurative is not known. It is clear, however, that Sargon placed enormous trust in Enheduanna in elevating her to the position of high priestess of the most important temple in Sumer in the city of Ur, and leaving her the responsibility for melding the Sumerian gods with the Akkadian ones and creating the stability his empire needed to thrive.
Man, so she was the one that went around and did the dirty work, got everybody to join. She was a sweet talker, it sounds like.
Renamed all the gods. I believe she was the first person to take the high priestess position in this church. That was a woman as well. Like previous to that, all the high priestesses in that kind of position were male.
Interesting.
Her name translates to High Priestesses of On, the sky god.
Man.
Wife of the god Nana.
It's crazy. So, yeah, it sounds like she was just a good diplomat. She could talk and convince. Just send a hot bitch around. Maybe she can get people to join. What is this?
Yeah, the different religions were so similar, and then their gods were so similar, but they just had different names. When you're doing this research, you'll find quite a few people that will give you the Babylonian names when they're talking about Sumer, and after a while, and you know the real names, it's a little bit irritating. But they're all kind of confusing. Like, obviously, we're not talking about Ishtar and Sumar, but people like to talk about that.
Yeah, Tiamat is not a Sumerian name. That's a Babylonian name.
Yeah.
But the goddess that is referred to as Tiamat in the Babylonian stories is paralleled in Sumer, but the name is different. And the attributes are not it's not exactly the same, or at least if it is, we don't have a parallel story that matches with the kind of detail that we have in the Babylonian version.
How close is that when you compare like Roman and Greek gods as well?
Well, it's the same kind of syncretism, in my opinion. I mean, you see this happening a lot, right? People just blend with the religion of whoever has the most power. Like, that's really just how it goes. Unless you're a crazy splinter group. If you go anywhere throughout the ancient world, you're going to find that, there's the religion of the empire is basically the most powerful one, wherever you are.
Have you heard any of the legends of Inanna and her sister? Ariska gal.
No.
A risky gal.
I'm sure I've heard all of this in a Sitchin context and in a non-Sitchin context, but it all blends together after a while, because after I kind of embraced it as part of a cosmic war thing, okay, the underlying story is basically just a big family fight, and then that has the allegories to the Saturn stuff. And all right.
I just ran into it today, and I was blown away by how similar it is to Persephone. Like, Inanna is worried about her sister, decides to visit the underworld to see her because her husband is the god of death. And she ends up, she has to give up all of her earthly possessions on the way through to the underworld, to these gatekeepers. And then she's killed as she gets down there naked. She has nothing left. But Enki, her father, sends 2 creatures he makes from clay underneath his fingernails. He sends them to the underworld to rescue her with the flood and the water of life. And those servants get down there and rescue Inanna's body and resurrect her from the underworld.
Yeah, that's the exact same story as Persephone. Almost. No pomegranates, though.
Well, Inanna is the mother in this story, and her sister is the one that's originally the queen of the underworld. So it's a little different, but it's just so similar that you kind of roll your eyes a little bit. And you go, couldn't you get another idea or something?
just a blatant ripoff.
Yeah.
Man. But there's no Christian version of that story, is there? Or is there?
No.
Because I've never read the Bible. I'm a blasphemer.
I just had a crazy thought.
Let's hear it, Jer. It's the ice cream bars.
It was the brain freeze that gave me this. What if these ancient civilizations are us playing out a script or a civilization with variables, right? You were given these things. What are you going to do with them all, right? And that would include specific god and goddess archetypes.
It's almost like a template.
Template, yeah, sure. A template that each civilization has. So I wouldn't say us. I'd say like whatever the consciousness would experience that template. And that's ancient Rome. They experienced another template. It's ancient Greece. So they did. It's not really in the past. It's in our past because we're experiencing each template linearly.
Oh man,
this is like group reincarnation, Jerry.
Yeah,
I like that idea. I mean, it
would make so much sense.
I mean, everything's so similar.
It would make sense there, but it would make so much sense more as far as why history doesn't seem to line up, why we can't seem to find it. We think people are hiding it from us, but maybe they don't know either, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What if all the ancient ruins and shit are just parts of old simulations?
Yeah, exactly.
That they just decided to use because it's like, well, you know, if you're a programmer, You might as well use some of the old shit.
It was part of this template. It was part of this template, and it had a backstory.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know. It just, the brain freeze did it.
It's like in Westworld when they in the newest season when they cross over in the from the Western to the Asian fighting style. Like,
it's like Westworld in that Maeve used to be on a farm with a small girl who was kidnapped by Indians, and then in her next plot, she was a whorehouse owner in the Old West. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if reincarnation is a thing and we're all coming back, like there would only be like one kind of overall story.
Sure, I mean, and if reincarnation's absolutely a thing, because you're going to play out that template until it's done.
Yeah. Oh man, I like that idea. There's no way of proving it, but I like it.
Delete blatantly claim their descendancy all the way back to the kings and queens of ancient Egypt, Sumer, Babylon, all of that stuff. Rome, Alexander the Great.
It'd be interesting if there was a way to tap into genetic memory, like the anime. You're able to tap into old genetic codes that are in your line of DNA. So then, if you do have lines that go back to some king or queen, you could somehow relive those when we have technology to.
Well, it's kind of what they claim with like past life regression and shit, but I don't know how much I buy that.
Have you guys watched that show Travelers?
No.
Yeah,
at all?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Did you finish the last season?
Yeah. Yep.
They're not gonna make any more. It got canceled. But you find out in the last 2 episodes, you find out that the whole point of the show is that in the future, it's like 500 years in the future, and AI is running a program called the Traveler Program, where it sends consciousnesses back into people who are about to die.
Yeah, like right when they're dying.
Right when they're dying, and it gives the person who's coming in enough chance to move out of the way.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? And they stop several disasters in a team. Anyway, you find out in the last show that the way that they're getting the current information to the director is by nanites in their blood that writes it into their DNA. And they have blood banks all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
So it's through this bloodline historical record, if you will, that the director in the future, this AI, learns of what's going on today. To tell if the timeline has changed at all.
Watcher, you were just talking about, were you kind of thinking of Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's crazy. The bloodline thing? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Sweet idea, at least.
I think at some point I touched on this. I don't know. I can't remember if it was in this group or a different one, but the 2 techniques that are the most important techniques of the human race basically are one, how to contact the quote unquote other world. That's one big one. And then the other one, which is also related to that, is reincarnation, specifically being able to figure out where you're going to end up or where someone else is going to end up next. So because you want to be able to recover that knowledge and you want to be able to continue the things that you're doing, because there's no way that one human life can, do what they need to accomplish.
Right.
So predicting reincarnation and being able to influence it is ultimately one of the most important techniques that they can master. And I think that they've gone to great lengths to do that.
Well, even the Egyptians and the Tibetans, they have books on what to expect when you die, right?
Oh, yeah. People have figured it out. That's why everyone's trying to rob the Tibetans.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, like, what do you think they figured out? Yeah, like I'm kind of lost.
Who the Tibetans?
The Tibetans, yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know if they personally figured it out, but they, got all the information and the techniques and the empowerments from the people that have. So the Tibetans, as a religious, like a theocracy.
Is that like the ascension into the light type thing? Like,
well, yeah, but basically what it is the kind of rainbow body stuff, and
yeah, that's what I mean.
It's that mixed with the really powerful sudden enlightenment stuff, which is like Dzogchen and Mahamudra and stuff like that.
Double rainbow.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the thing is, no matter what certain ridiculous people have said about that, like that's the real thing, and that's really the highest attainment, and you find that's also common in Christianity too, and so that's really the goal of the religious practice, right? And one of the key things about the Tibetans, which is also common in certain Indian practices and is the real goal of Tantra, is the kind of, they call it prananadi bindu. It's like the circulation of the internal energies. And this is, in various stages, gives rise to other kind of subtle bodies, and that is the reincarnation vehicle. So you're not subjected to it in a way that you can't control or dictate. And so that's the real ultimate goal. And that's what they're doing. And so the Tibetans, what they did as an empire, because they were a theocracy and Buddhism really was the most important thing, because they had tons of magic and they made sure that they were getting all of the best teachings. And so they were sending people everywhere to find all of the best masters for this stuff. And I mean, they're the ones that conserved it, because they took it the most seriously out of everybody, and they were really isolated.
The Nazis took it pretty seriously too.
Well, that's the thing. And where did they go to try to get the magic?
Exactly.
They went to Tibet.
Yeah, now they've got it all.
Too? Yeah, they also went to Tibet. Where'd the Americans go? Yeah, everyone was trying to make alliances with Tibet. In one way to mess with China, but in the other way, if you want to up the ante in your secret society, you go where the magic's at.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
Much craziness.
Hey, have you heard of that technique of opening your third eye, where you drill a hole, put a piece of silver in your forehead?
What?
Oh, yeah, that's
fucking trepanation.
Yeah, it's trepanation jewelry.
That's right.
That's just wrong.
You ever hear that jewelry that you put on your cat's tail?
You don't pop your
out their asshole.
You need to put one of those and wear that kind of butthole jewelry, and you have a perfect conductor. I think that's what it is.
Hey, don't be mocking that butthole jewelry.
Hey, man.
I'm just saying, hey, it's stylish and functional. It'll turn you into like the perfect 5G antenna.
5G antenna.
Oh man,
those
5G.
pigtails are cute though on the right person.
Man,
what if 5G's already here and we're all just living in augmented reality? We have no idea. Who knows?
What if they've been chemtrailing?
You don't need 5G for augmented reality, man.
Oh, it's gonna be everywhere.
No, they don't. They already have it. Yeah,
it's here, but it's just gonna be everywhere now.
Don't use it.
Yeah,
don't use it.
Don't use it.
But it'll be so fun when I see people using it and I'm not using it. I'm gonna get FOMO. Come on, Jer. I'm only American.
There's no gold in virtual stuff. You know that.
And no, there isn't. No, there isn't.
There's no treasure in that quest.
No treasure in that quest. No gold at the end of that rainbow.
There's fake treasure. There's virtual treasure when you catch virtual shit.
I don't even think we need 5G for our current computing.
We don't.
They just try to make excuses for putting it in. I don't even know why at this point.
It's because all these tech companies are pushing it so hard, and they need to rely on it. So it's like, let's get it out. Let's get it out. They're just gonna put it out untested. Let's just slam that shit into the public. We'll worry about it. We'll put some patches if it fucks people up. Like, they don't even care. They just want to get it out.
They're worried about cornering the market and being first.
Exactly. Right. It's all fucking money. And they don't.
Do you guys remember this?
It's just now. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was saying, do you remember this story? Me and my wife watched this special last night. It was you ever hear of this company called Theranos? It was that blood company. Yeah, dude. Like, I'd never really thought about. I probably thought about it at the time, but I'm like, oh my god, what a scam of all scams, dude. Yeah, talk about untested product. Yeah, they were gonna.
Yeah, explain Theranos. What is this?
Theranos. Okay, there was this female student that dropped out of like Stanford or something after 2 months in, thinking she's like, I just want to save people. And so she said she came up with a device that will be revolutionizing like the taking of blood. Like their device will be able to scan like 200 different things with just one little prick of blood. And but she based her whole identity and model and company after like Steve Jobs, and she even hired like.
Oh yeah, she was the one that dressed like Steve Jobs and shit too, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and she hired like 2 or 3 dudes that were from Apple. Like
Elizabeth Holmes is her name.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. And so within like I don't know, maybe a year or two of her coming up with the idea, that whole thing, she was raising money. She raised like $6 million, and saying that this is groundbreaking. All in all, the whole thing never worked. Jeez. Like they made a partnership with like Walgreens. And they were going to have one of these machines in every Walgreens, you know.
What a bitch.
Oh, dude. There was so much money. There was so much money involved in this company and then it was just the biggest scam ever. Like one of the
biggest. Like a who's who of investors.
Yeah, well, dude, it was all
jump in.
Yeah, it was all defense agency like people. It was crazy. It was like 8 of them, like from the Department of Defense. Like, and then the kid, there was a dude that just totally like blew the whistle on the whole thing, because what they were doing was
the Waltons, Betsy DeVos, Rupert Murdoch.
Murdoch, DeVos, Murdoch. Yeah, it was amazing, dude. Like some of them,
deep state fundraiser.
Deep state fundraiser. Yeah. Like they knew this was garbage. They had to have been just like, let's just, oh my God. Like,
yeah, man, that's the Ponzi scheme, dude.
It says at least $100 million.
Oh my God.
Oh, dude. Yeah, she threw down $100 million. Yeah. Like, and just gone. All that money. Like, and I'm thinking, like, where did all that money go? You know, like, to the government, I would imagine.
Market Watch says $700 million.
Yeah.
It's a lot of cocaine.
Yeah, it was almost $1 billion company, dude. Like, and it never did anything. All they were doing was anytime that like what they would do is the whole catch thing was like, just stop in and get a pinprick and we'll give you your results, and you get 200 different like, you know, markers for red flagged and everything. And what they were doing was just finding loopholes. So they would take your blood sample, not by the pinprick. They were drawing blood like any other thing. So right there, the dumb person that went in to be like, yeah, I want a Theranos test. And then they bust out a needle. You'd be like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't what it's supposed to be. You know, like, yeah, I'd be out. But like, so yeah, they're drawing in blood, 3 vials of blood. They're supposed to be like 1 drop of blood. Yeah. So then they FedEx them. They fly them out to this Palo Alto or whatever in California. And then they had third-party blood machines out there like doing it. Because they had people that had this Theranos machine there, and they like they're scientist people. Like every time they put it in, it spit out some different result. Like it was garbage. It was complete garbage. They could never figure out how to do it. And that company ran for like 6 years.
She founded the company at 19.
Yeah, at 19 years old. Yeah,
so crazy.
She changed her voice. She talks like a man. It's so weird. It's the weirdest thing ever. Yeah, I just want to help people. Just yeah, it's yeah.
There's
she had the script on lockdown, dude.
Deep voice.
She did. It was pretty wild.
She looks kind of like Ashley Tisdale.
It was an amazing story. It was a 2-hour thing. I don't think it needed to be 2 hours, but damn, it was what a scam, dude. What a scam.
She looks like Tanya Harding.
Yeah,
she does look exactly like there. That's perfect. Yeah.
No, she looks more like.
She even hired like some like fashion designer that Jobs used. Like it was some crazy thing.
Yeah, man, she's got the black turtleneck.
Somebody told her to wear all black turtlenecks.
All black, like their website, their marketing, everything was just a ripoff of Apple. Like
it's a good power move.
Yeah, big power.
So where's she at now?
That just means she's a MacBook user.
No, they left off with her. She ran. There was a guy that was part of the story, and he was at this he said he was just eating at a bar one night, and he looked over, and there she was sitting there, and she introduced her fiance or whatever. I guess she was in this crazy long relationship with this dude Sonny, who was there from the beginning, but they never like equated the two of them being together. Because like there was one point where Theranos was about to dive down, and this dude out of nowhere from New York like throws down like $16 million like invested into the company. And that's when it really exploded after that. Like, and then they started hiring all these people from Apple. And it was like everyone was trying to get in on the game, like they didn't even care what it was. And
so she's not in jail or anything.
She's not in jail, but okay. Like then she said she's
working her way through charges right now or something.
That and like she's supposedly starting up another company.
You guys ever think of the apple symbol as like a symbol from the forbidden fruit of the Garden of Eden?
Oh, absolutely, man. There's a
bite taken out of it.
Yep, that's it. That's totally. Dude, my brother works for Apple. Yeah. He had to sign all these non-disclosures and
Wait, you have a brother?
Yeah, he's 5 years older than me. But he works for Apple, and dude, he signed all these non-disclosures, and like I tried getting info out of him at Christmas, and he's like, listen. He's like, just what you know, the tech that you have now isn't shit compared to what we have. He's like, that's all I could tell you. He's like,
bullshit.
I mean, I have no reason to not believe him.
Been hearing that forever.
By the time they put it out, they'll already be behind. They way too long because they want it to be perfect, but it's perfectly unproductive. Their stuff sucks. That's what I guess.
I'm just repeating what he told me. I don't know. I don't know what's true and what's not.
I just feel like computer power in general has been at a real standstill for a while.
Yeah, dude, nothing's happened.
Sure. Thank you.
That was
not for us.
I mean, when we were, I just remember growing up, like computers were just like, boom, it was new. Everything was new. Double the speed. And then it was like 2000.
Then you couldn't use the old machine.
Yeah, man. It's like 2005 or 6. Once 2000
expands to fill the capacity of your CPU.
Well, my computer is over 10 years old that I'm using, and it's still fast.
Mine too. Everything that we record the show, we stream everything. This is from 2007. This computer is.
Okay, well, there's no way in 2007 you could take a machine from 1997 and do
exactly. So it's
the problem with heat. It'll only make it so small, and then it'll get too hot. So we need big freezers.
That's what she said.
Yeah. It's, well, that's the crazy cooling systems that they have for computers and shit. But yeah,
that's why D-Wave is so successful, because it's in a map to keep
freezer.
D-Wave
tries to keep it close to absolute zero.
You ever see those crazy gaming PCs that are liquid cooled?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I've seen some videos on people making those. It's fucking nuts.
I saw a guy put a fog machine in his. It was super lame.
A fog machine?
Yeah, but you'd be
build it inside of a fish tank and fill it with mineral oil.
Mineral oil?
Just put your optical drive and your hard drive on top. And the mass of the mineral oil, it lasts forever. Nothing ever gets dusty.
Yeah. Jeez. Bitcoin mining rigs.
Your cat is hilarious right now.
I know. She just perched up on the top of my chair. Hiding in the shadows. Oh, man.
Mine's rolling on the floor over here.
So the old solution to, them getting too hot was they would just shrink the manufacturing process every time. And then every time they shrank the manufacturing process, the voltage that was needed to run the CPU would go down.
Power. Yeah.
And that would reduce temperatures by a long ways. Like CPUs kind of reached a peak of how much power they put out. Like the AMD Thunderbird 1.4, I think, was the hottest processor ever made, or something. One of the maybe one of the Pentium, 3.2 gigahertz, really old machines.
Mm-hmm. Before they went to dual core.
That, when they started going down in the die size and the voltage, they ran way cooler. Like my machine right here is, it's the last Core 2 Duo. And it was after they had shrunk the manufacturing process previous to the one I had before that. And I put the same cooler on it, and it just like it doesn't even need it anymore. It runs 10 degrees cooler than the previous CPU I had.
Jeez.
Still, it seems like they've hit a wall in speed. We just can't get super fast computers. I think the transistors they've maxed out on density
on that material. I think they kind of need to find a different manufacturing process.
They need a different paradigm.
I got an Intel 2-core quad. It's only 2.4 gigahertz, and the thing still runs like a dream. I have no problems with it.
Yeah, we need to run Windows on the quantum computers at D-Wave. Work on that, Microsoft.
God. D-Wave.
Or what happened to light? Remember light computing, light CPUs instead of electricity or something?
I was just going to say,
electricity is just as fast.
Read a story a month or so ago.
Yeah, but it runs cooler.
A tech news segment, and they had these little stickers that pull in energy from the ether, basically, and it's like copper and on a sticker, and you can just stick these things on things, and it would be like a battery, basically.
Dude, I wrote that into my notebook the other day.
Yeah,
I had for little windmill. I might have told you guys, little windmills that turn when the ether flows by.
Jeez, ether
quantum windmills.
But yeah, that's just like the particle. Yeah, they need to figure out a way to harness more power out of it, I guess. But yeah, you'd be able to they were talking about putting those just smaller things, but it was pretty interesting.
The way you get more out of it is by a resonance process. It like steps it up. 5 degrees. Yeah.
It's a pyramid scheme.
Well, sort of, yeah. Do you guys ever see the movie Forbidden Planet?
Oh man, that's an old
Sounds familiar, yeah.
So that's actually a really great movie for a lot of reasons.
A lot of reasons. It's a great movie.
It is. It is an excellent movie. It's a great tech disclosure movie as well, because you can see that they're using kind of the microwave hard light stuff in addition to the, kind of other light speed travel stuff. And so when they get to the planet, when they contact the guy who's there, he takes them to the kind of central power room of this whole place. And the guy describes the process of how the old culture on this planet generated power. And it basically starts low, and then it steps it up by 10 times, and then it just keeps going and going and going. And he's like, well, he says that like with only one step, he could just destroy the ship. And so there's, the steps go all the way around the room. So he could step it up to insane power, right? And it's just of resonance, right? It's kind of a harmonic thing. It's a feedback loop, basically. And you keep stepping up the feedback loop because once it gets to a certain power, you kind of step it up to the next set, and then that kind of feedback loops for a while, and it just keeps going.
It's like Tesla's bridge destroying machine.
Yeah.
Man. Tesla. You guys think he was in contact with aliens?
Nah. He said he was in contact with angels, I think.
Angels.
Is what he said.
Something was talking to him.
Angels, aliens, demons. What's the difference?
It is. Right. And he married wasn't he obsessed with
a pigeon?
A pigeon, yeah. He loved that.
Yeah. I think it's just because he didn't have any luck with girls. He had to do something.
Yeah, man. I could appreciate that.
Yeah. Someone should make a t-shirt that says, I love you like Tesla loved pigeons.
I like that.
I think there were a lot of girls after him. But he wasn't really interested from one of the little biographies I read.
Well, good for him.
He's into way cooler things.
Yeah, man. He knows where the distractions lie. Yeah.
No time for trifling. Nick would test it up.
Yeah. You haven't lived. You've had pigeon head.
God, getting domed off by a beak. That's what I'm talking about.
It's tough.
That's some hard hat.
That is.
Indeed.
Man.
All right, I got to take off. Thank you guys for having me on.
Dude, yeah, thanks for hanging out, man. Yeah,
Tuesday.
Martian.
Totally livened it up.
Yeah,
take off, Hoser.
Thank you guys. I'll see you soon.
All right, see you later, man. Man, fucking Easter. It's crazy.
Next week, right?
I think it's no.
No, it's actually really late this year.
It's 421. Yeah, I know.
So it isn't. Is it lined up with the lunar cycle?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, it's the Sunday after the first full moon, but the moon is what determines it, really.
Right, but usually it lines up with the solar and lunar equinox.
Yeah,
it should line
the
up
equinox.
It doesn't.
The first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. Yeah, because that's like the date that everybody would pick, right?
Yeah, but it's like next week.
It's April 21st, I think. This year.
I know, but the equinox is next week, and the moon is next week.
Ah, the moon. Man,
so I'm telling you, it's out of sync, is what I'm trying to tell you.
I wonder why they did that. Or if that
it was on my birthday one year.
Because they fucked up. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, is all I'm saying. The 28th is the 20th is a full moon.
So it's the day before the equinox is a full moon. So then we have to wait for a whole nother cycle is why it's so late.
It's a full cycle after? I thought it was the first Sunday after.
Well, it's the first full moon after. So if you're already in full moon when you reach the equinox, you have to wait for the next full moon. That's why it takes an entire month.
Okay. I'm still calling shenanigans. I think they're off a month. And they're going to suffer for it.
They might suffer.
I'm telling you, this is like an omen, guys. They're wrong. They're not going to get what they think out of it. And
it's not going to pay off. The things that have been paying off for years and years, it's just not going to work now.
It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're digging in the wrong place.
Well, it's just not going to work for us. They know, I'm sure.
Maybe.
No, they don't. They don't care. I think, too, that a lot of shit that's going on is just done because it's traditional and nobody really understands what they're doing.
No.
Like hapless idiots.
Yeah, I think somebody has to know something. I don't know how they would get these like alignments perfect in the Stone Age when they didn't have any GPS or anything like that. I mean, we still don't know how they accomplished some of these things.
It's also amazing that we traveled billions and billions and billions of light years since then, and the sky is the same. It's shocking.
It is interesting that we just keep traveling through. Well, I mean, but if everything's moving in tandem, all the same, wouldn't it be the same?
It's not. I've heard 3 different explanations for what's going on, expanding, contracting, and they just don't know now. You know, remember the universe used to be expanding, accelerating and expanding away from itself. That used to be the going theory. And now it's not. And now they don't know because it's going back and forth. It's crazy.
Don't they say now everything is expanding out away from us?
They used to. I thought they changed their tune.
No, that was from the center. They said it was expanding from the center of our galaxy.
That was the very first.
That was the first, yeah. And then it's all expanding away from us.
From us, yes.
And now it's something else, you're saying?
No, it's something else, yeah. I'll find the article. It just keeps changing. Like, you know, the moon is in our atmosphere now. Oh, really?
Yeah, that's funny. Eh?
Yeah, dude, that's crazy how that just came out saying, oh, yeah, by the way, you know, our atmosphere might extend out to the moon now. Like, what?
Well, NASA recently canceled the SLS project and the Orion missions and all that shit. The stuff they were trying to get past the Van Allen radiation belts with, you remember? That was that whole project. Gone.
Yeah. I was watching on Twitter that Soyuz mission. They just shot up a rocket. Yeah, dude. And I was watching the live stream, and it was 90% people just talking shit. It was crazy. Like,
really, like flat earthers?
Oh, no way. They were all like, "Where are you at? Where are you at?" Flat, and everyone was making fun of the flat earthers. But it was just, it was just so good. There'd be like 1 or 2 people just like trying to like.
Dude, Grimerica just had a flat earther on last week. Dude, the chats were insane. The fucking
they didn't even post the show yet.
No, they haven't posted that one yet. But the YouTube chats, like the army came out of flat earthers. Like it was ridiculous. I could only sit in there for like a couple minutes and look at it. Like it was insane.
They're really bad. And then you get the Bible ones in there. Oh God.
Oh man. Wow.
Dude, there was a couple in it, but it was all just. Yeah, I made one comment about the Van Allen belt, and then it exploded on that. Yeah,
triggered everyone.
You triggered them all, James.
It exploded on that.
Van Halen belts.
Yeah, the Van Halen belts.
Yeah, I don't want to be one to just kind of throw a theory away or anything, but I don't know if I want to really entertain that one.
No. I mean, it's really not worth it.
It's like the next level of an open mind, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's really no way for you to prove either way. So.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, it doesn't affect us either way. Whether it's round or whether it's flat, we still have to do our shit. We still got to wake up and go to work. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, granted, it might expose what they say is a series of lies that they've been telling us for forever. But, dude, we already know that they lie to us about so much shit. Be
some kind of Truman Show, and that's all part of the thing.
I just saw some story that somebody spent flat earthers researchers spent $20,000 and then actually proved that it was round. It's oh man, accidentally proved it was round.
But then they're going to deny it for some reason.
Yeah, if you watch that Netflix special, what the hell was it? Beyond the Dome, I think it was. It's pretty new, but
the Curve didn't have something to do with the Curve.
Yeah, the Curve.
Beyond the Curve. It's called. I haven't watched that. And I don't think I'm gonna watch it.
It's ridiculous. Yeah,
but it's like, what is that? Why is Netflix promoting Flat Earth?
They're not. It's a hit piece.
It's a hit piece. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
You got to watch the whole thing right at the end. You're like, oh my god!
Now that makes me
popular right now.
Yeah, that is true. It's gonna get a lot of hits.
Definitely.
No, nobody's gonna watch the crap.
I watched it. I had to watch it. I was like, "What is
you did, James?"
Of course I did.
That girl from Stranger Things was talking about flat Earth for a while or something.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah. And that's the thing. Well, that's the problem. Is all these people who
there's NBA stars.
It's just a stop on your way to getting woke.
Yes.
Okay?
It's a stop.
Yeah. You need to go check it out, but that's it. Leave.
Yeah.
The gate's
Do
open.
your research. Do your research.
Yeah, I don't want to go too hard on the flat earthers. At least they can entertain an idea that is a little out of the box.
Yes, they
can. If you look at some of their evidence, it's very compelling.
Oh.
The problem is, look at some globe evidence; it's very compelling.
Yeah, it's the dogma. The dogma that's like my idea is the fucking right one. That's what I hate when people just get so behind their shit.
It's almost as bad as intersectionalism.
Intersexualism, man.
Intersexual.
Guys, we done about 2 hours. We got anything else go on, or
that's it, man?
What do you think? Got some final thoughts here?
Well, get yourself a good ham for Tammuz, I guess.
I love Easter dinner way better than fucking Christmas dinner, by the way, in my opinion.
I think they're all ridiculous. Ham and turkey and all those fucking meals should be outlawed. Just eat some regular food. Get some burgers or something. Grill out.
Have a spread.
Are you cooking corned beef or are you tired of it?
Oh, dude, I'm totally cooking corned beef tomorrow. I mean, absolutely. I fucking love corned beef.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I looked into St. Patrick's Day a little bit, and apparently it was not much of a holiday until recently. Well, in Ireland. In Ireland, it was considered a religious holiday until the 70s, and it was illegal to even have pubs open.
It's a fake holiday.
Oh, man, illegal to have pubs open in Ireland?
Yeah, on St. Patrick's Day. They just reinvented the holiday for marketing purposes, and it's turned into the new celebration of Bacchus. It's America's drunkard holiday.
Yeah.
Check out Thomas Sheridan's stuff about St. Patrick and what he thought about it. It's pretty funny.
Well, that's a celebration of Osiris, really. He's the green man.
I'm quarter Irish.
That's why they dye the river green.
Yeah, we had to do that every year in Chicago. Dye that river green.
I hated that shit.
Yeah. Just all the drunks,
whole
man.
name-
Don't go out on St. Patty's Day.
Green beer.
Bad
I
news.
lived on the south side of Chicago. I lived 7 blocks from the parade every Sunday, and they blocked out 3 miles, all the way to
Oh
Blue
yeah,
Island.
dude. The city shuts down and everybody's
Yeah, all
trashed.
the people doing whatever they call
The pub crawls, yeah, yep.
Fuck. And the streets smell like puke and piss and beer for weeks.
Yeah, and don't do acid.
No.
No, never do that in a public setting. Are you kidding me? That's rule 1. Don't
did
trip
it.
and
So what's wrong with you, a hippie?
Man. Well, yeah, thanks, Tbone. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What's the next holiday that we could do? I don't even know. I don't even think there's another like Christian holiday that's ripped off
No,
paganism.
there's some stuff around the Heliacal Rising of Sirius. The calendar itself is really interesting, and I'd almost like to do an episode on the calendar in general.
Yeah, the like September being this actually originally the 7th month, right? In October, November, December, they're 8,
Right.
9.
Because March was always the first until Gregorians changed it from the Julian calendar.
Yeah.
It was Julius Caesar's calendar.
They had 10 months originally.
Right.
Oh man.
Hell.
But March,
No, it's been
the important thing there is that the first of the year coincided with the equinox, with the new cycle, with the resurrection. It's all the same shit.
Yeah.
I'll have to find it again, but I listened to a podcast about how the structure of our modern calendar has all these occult meanings in it, and it just purposely structured to hit these certain dates and times and stuff.
They're Gregorian occult.
Like there could have been an easier way to do it, but obviously did it a certain way to align.
Yeah, like their chants are occult.
Stay tuned for that show.
Hell yeah.
They're
Let's
awesome.
do it.
Man.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, thanks, Jerry, for coming on. Appreciate it. Thanks, Watcher, hanging out.
Thanks for having
Yeah, good to see you guys.
Yeah, man.
Throw a shout out to, Martian, who was here earlier. This is a good time tonight. So, yeah. If you guys have any grievances against Tbone, come to the chats. Throw it at him.
I'll be there.
He'll be there. And yeah, another episode of Cruise Mistake. Thanks for listening.
It's not like we all aren't.
I'm more brave and talkative behind a keyboard.
Yes. Yes. Nice. Well, yeah. Another
You'll
show
be on
wrapped
camera
up.
in no time.
Yeah. I could use my laptop, but man, my desktop runs so much better.
Yeah.
I don't have a camera on it.
That's where it's at. Thanks for listening. See you guys Tuesday. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Surprise. And as fate would have it, they wanted rain cats and dogs. And would you know it's me? And that woe is me in my poetry. A ghost town, a tumbleweed, a hush. And as fate would have it, day 2, a drought. And would you share your last drop of water with me, your friend, Filio, so cool. P.S. I love you, baby. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
What the jack? Ah.